Hey, what's up, guys? Metal Man again. Just back to the PEERLESS 700. Going to show you how to do a little mod to the 700 if this interests you at all. I'm building a utility tractor, and it's going to have four-wheel drive. And one of the features I'd like to have is backup lights. So when you put the transmission in reverse, that the lights on the back of the tractor will turn on at night. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to utilize what normally would be a neutral safety switch that threads in right here. And you can see over here on the bench I have the neutral safety switch. And I also have a strip of LED lights just for demonstration purposes. You can pretend that that's my backup lights if it were on the tractor. So what's really cool about these neutral safety switches is that they function the opposite of what you would expect. This little ball right here is what activates the switch, but you would think that when you press the switch in, it would activate, and that's actually the opposite of what really happens. It actually is activated in this position with the ball out with the spring tension on it, and then inside the transmission, you can see here right now, if you look inside this hole, you'll see a metal plate. That's the top of the shift selector plate, and if you're in any gear other than neutral, you'll see the top of the shift selector plate, and the ball rides on top of that shift selector plate. So as I come down through the gears, you can see the plate is there in every position until I get to neutral. And if you look inside there, if it'll focus, you can see that there's actually a hole inside there in the neutral position. I'm rocking my shift selector right now, and in any other position, as I said, you would just see the top of the shifter plate. So neutral is really the only spot that you're going to have a hole, and that's what activates the switch. So normally if you're going to start the engine, this switch won't allow you to do so unless you're in this position. So what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to fill up that hole with some weld, and I'm going to drill a new hole in the position when the transmission is in reverse. So all I'm going to do today is shift the transmission into reverse, and then I'm going to take a what's called a transfer punch. It just has a little point at the tip, and I selected the one that's just the size that will fit inside this hole, inside the threads. So now that I've got the transmission in the reverse position, and just to double check that, we'll flip the transmission over, and if I turn the sprocket, it should move to the left, which it does. And if I were in any other gear other than reverse, which I'll demonstrate, it would turn to the right. So I'm going to move it back. There's neutral. I'm turning the output shaft. Nothing's turning on the transmission. And then if I shift it all the way down, sometimes the reverse gear is tough to get into because I'm trying to do this with one hand, and the gear has to be lined up inside. That's right now it isn't. There we go. Okay, so now it's in reverse, and if you can see back in that hole, you'll see the top of the plate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this center punch, I'm going to drop it inside the hole right here, and I'm going to take a hammer and I'm going to tap that, and it's going to put an indent in the shifter plate. Then when I open the top cover and pull the shifter plate out, I'll show you where that indent is, and that's where I'm going to drill the new hole, and I'll weld up the old hole. And while we're at it, let me just show you real quick. If I were to connect this, I have a 9-volt battery, I have the LED lights, and I just have it wired to this switch with the negative interrupted. If I connect this negative right now, the LED lights should power up, and there it goes. So let me just connect that permanently so I don't have to hold it. And now I've got it connected, and you can see the LED lights are lit. Now if I were to take this switch and push this ball as if it were inside the transmission riding on the shifter plate, the lights go out. And that's the way it'll ride in any gear position in the transmission until it hits reverse with the hole there, and then the lights would come on. So pretty simple. It should do the trick. I'll get back with you guys after I've driven this center punch into the plate, pulled the cover off, and I'll show you the indent, and that's where we'll drill. See you soon. Alright guys, so inside the transmission case, you can see there is the hole in the top of the shifter plate, and that's because we're in neutral right now. So if I turn this shaft, you know, nothing is happening. And as I said before, if I were to put this in reverse, you can see the top of the shifter plate. Now, you can still see a little bit of the hole on the left, but it's certainly not in a position where the ball spring plunger on the switch will fall into the hole. So when you put it into neutral, it's clearly in the center of the hole and the ball would fall in there. So right now that's how the neutral safety switch works. When I put it into reverse, you can probably just see in the center there at the pretty much at the edge of the old hole is the prick punch mark that I used my center punch to put on the shifter plate. So when we take this cover off, okay, here we are. So the transmission cover is off, and here's the shift selector plate. And as I said, this hole here is the one where the ball of the neutral safety switch would fall into, and this one is the original one for neutral. And when the shift selector is moved to reverse, if you can see just above my fingertip there, there's a little indent that I've made with the center punch, and it's right there. So what I'll do now is just remove this shift selector fork, and I will weld up this original hole, and then I'll re-drill a new hole with the center of the hole being right where that prick punch is, and the hole will be exactly the same diameter as the original hole, so that the ball on the switch will ride on this plate in every gear except for reverse, when it will fall into the new hole and activate my backup lights. So pretty simple mod. Just thought I'd show you guys how I did that, and if it's something that interests you, I hope that it was a little bit of a help for you and simplified things and sped up the process for you. So alright guys, I'll show you when that's welded up, installed and working, and we'll see you in the next update.